Hello, welcome to our country analysis group presentation made by Josh, which is me, Rowena, Brenda, and Lauren, and Jeremy. For the project, we chose the high income country of Canada, whilst for the low income country, we chose Nigeria. We'll get into the short introductions of these countries soon, and as we move on, we'll provide a more detailed context of each countries. But before this, let's talk about the five WHO Sustainable Developmental Goals that we picked. So in the slides, here are the five WHO goals we picked. We picked no poverty as our first, second as zero hunger, third as good health and well-being, fourth as clean water and sanitation, and our last pick was climate action. So now I'll briefly introduce Canada. So to start off with Canada, it is the second largest country by total area, featuring a vast variety of landscapes, including mountains, plains, lakes, and rivers. It is home to approximately 41 million individuals. For its healthcare system, it was created by the Canada Health Act, and the system must comply to the five pillars of the act. And it's mainly funded by the provincial and territorial tax revenue under the guidelines set by the federal government, in which 100% of the population in each province or country is covered. For its demographics, it is diverse with significant amount of the population being immigrants. As of March 2023, though, with the Canada's Canada is trying to manage an inflation and keep its economy strong after the pandemic that happened in 2020. Efforts to make living costs more affordable are ongoing by the government, and according to OECD, an organization for economic cooperation and development, the country needs reforms to boost investments and productivity for economic growth. Okay, so that's Canada. Now I'll briefly introduce Nigeria. As for Nigeria, it's actually the most populous country in Africa. With its economy, it has the second largest economy, third largest military power, and holds the biggest oil producer title in Africa, which significantly helps its economy. Nigeria is actually 10th in the world for oil producing. However, the country is being held back due to chronic electricity shortages, which have been a long problem in Nigeria. It holds a home to approximately 230 million individuals. Its healthcare system consists of a public and private sector, but faces challenges such as inadequate funding, facilities, and shortages of healthcare professionals. Its demographics is highly diverse with over 250 ethnic groups, and English is the official language with numerous indigenous language widely spoken. Okay, so I'll pass it on to Lauren.
All right, so we're going to go over the Nigerian WHO Sustainable Target Goals, and on the slide are the five listed that we picked. So first is no poverty. Nigeria is a multi-ethnic and diverse federation of 36 autonomous states and the federal capital. Nigeria has the largest population and economy in Africa, but it has limited opportunities for most of its citizens. Nigeria has had a fluctuating increase and decrease in poverty rates since 2000. Between 2000 and 2014, Nigerians' economy sustained growth of over 7% annually by benefiting from favorable incomes, macroeconomics, and structural reform. However, from 2015 to 2022, growth rates decreased for a number of reasons, such as COVID-19, lower oil production, and increased fiscal deficits, and many more reasons. Present day poverty rates are still decently high, with almost 4 out of 10 Nigerian people living below the poverty line, which is about 80 million. With hopes for strengthening macroeconomic fundamentals, learning losses from school closures will need to be reversed, and social protection to offset income losses and failing houses. Nigeria still needs many more long-term support reforms to help foster the economy and pull people out of poverty. And with the increasing population, they should be put in place as soon as possible. I'm going on to the next slide. Our second target goal is zero hunger. Malnutrition and socioeconomics and slow progress plans in reducing hunger highlight the urgent need for more focused efforts to address hunger in Nigeria. The absence of food and nutrition in Nigeria is due to several factors, including rapid urbanization, low agriculture enterprise, increased population growth, poor hygiene and sanitation, lack of access to education and health services, limited access to potable water, and many more reasons. Nigeria accounts for 14% of worldwide maternal deaths and 13% of worldwide deaths for children under 5 years of age, and nearly 13 million Nigerians still struggle with nutrition in rural and urban areas. These numbers reflect the poor food and nutrition in Nigeria, and more attention should be drawn to this. To improve global food and nutrition security in Nigeria, the government has been striving to strengthen policy and institutional frameworks programs to target some key areas in distress, specifically rural areas. By creating investment plans and reforms from the government, the aim to end rural hunger and better hunger in Nigeria in the whole can be done from within the government and supporting help from other countries. The third sustainable goal we chose is good health and well-being. Playing off of the poverty rates in Nigeria, about 40% of Nigerians live in poverty. This ties into social conditions that create ill health, unaffordable health, and unavailable health options. Major obstacles often hinder the use of available resources related to health in Nigeria. Lack of population and mortality data, insufficient funding for healthcare and healthcare systems, and large population inequities are just a small list of issues behind poor health and health opportunities in Nigeria. Despite Nigeria having the highest inflow for medical research and basic health factors, the disbursement and inventory systems have not proven to account for this money. With effective reproductive, maternal, and child health services, including family planning and female education, can increase overall health and well-being and can be the start to a demographic transition for health in Nigeria. The next slide. We chose clean water and sanitation. Nigeria's water and sanitation crisis is considered severe. Flooding is a huge issue in Nigeria that can contaminate many water wells and sanitation processes. Poor urban planning, inadequate draining systems, and deforestation are all contributors to the frequency and severity of flooding in Nigeria. These flooding issues have affected over 3.2 million and have even caused over 600 fatalities to Nigerians. These inductions have affected 34 out of 36 states and continue to rise. Not only does flooding worsen the state of potable water and sanitation, but it also affects infrastructure, food sources, and employment. The World Bank estimates that 70 million Nigerians lack basic drinking water and that 114 million lack basic sanitation. These numbers are incredibly high and can also contribute to the WHO of good health and well-being. The Nigerian government has recognized this issue and have been taking significant steps to fix this crisis. They plan to invest 1.6 trillion, which is about 1.6 billion Canadian dollars over the next 5 years to provide clean water and sanitation to 90% of the population. Other measures such as digging wells and building water points and hygiene facilities and sanitation compartments have been in place. However, this struggle is still present in Nigeria. And our last sustainable target goal for Nigeria is climate action. A part of Nigeria's wealth comes from the oil and natural gas. Nigeria also has the highest rate of deforestation in the world, losing 3.7% of its forest every year. It is also home to Africa's largest mangrove forest, but only 6% of it is protected. Rising sea levels increase vulnerability to flooding and waterborne disease. Additionally, drought and rising temperatures hinder agricultural production and fishing, reducing food security and negatively impacting health. Energy sectors, deforestation, and land use change are at the top of the 3 contributors to greenhouse gas emissions in Nigeria. In 2021, the Nigerian government updated its nationally determined contribution to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Paris Agreement. This agreement aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 47% by 2030. The Nigerian Climate Change Act has also acted on these issues by mainstreaming climate change actions to also achieve low greenhouse gas emissions. Now we'll move on to the Canadian WHO Sustainable Target Goals. Number one, no poverty. As of 2019, it's estimated that 10% of Canadians live in poverty, and these numbers have recently increased as the COVID-19 pandemic. Poverty in Canada is more present in historically marginalized groups such as Indigenous people, racialized people, recent immigrants/refugees, people with disabilities, 2S LGBTQ plus community, and single-parent individuals. The Poverty Reduction Act, which received royal assent in 2019, is rooted with poverty reduction targets, Canada's official poverty line, the National Advisory Council into Poverty Law. These strategies seek to reduce/remove systematic barriers and aims to reduce poverty by 50% by 2030. Other organizations such as Canada Child Benefit, Canada Pension Plan, On Reserve Income Assistance, and National Housing Strategy, and many more are also rooted to help uplift and give support to those living in poverty in Canada. Next slide is our second WHO Sustainable Target Goal, Zero Hunger. For Canada, 1 in 8 households in 2018 was food insecure, which amounts to 4.4 million people and 12% of the population in Canada, which includes 1.2 million children. Food security is a huge issue as the world population continues to grow. Despite Canada being a wealthy country, food scarcity is still an issue for many. One target to help prevent Canadians from experiencing food insecurity in Canada is to make Canadian agriculture sustainable. By 2030, support improvement in the environmental performance of the agriculture sector to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition. Our third goal is good health and well-being. Despite many Canadians having access to healthcare and health clinics, the struggle for some to find family doctors and get the diagnostics they need are not present in Canada. Mental health is an ongoing issue for many individuals in Canada, and these can also rise from historically marginalized groups such as Indigenous people, to us LGBTQ plus community, youth, seniors, and many more groups. Around 1 in 9 people live with a diagnosable mental health disorder in Canada. Globally, these disorders are responsible for 5% of deaths and disease. Current mental health care budgets could be spent more efficiently to help these numbers. Around 80% of the mental health care funding goes towards psychiatric hospitals, but this could be more efficiently used for community-based care facilities, ultimately having better outcomes budget-wise. The Canadian healthcare system is currently a public system, but is becoming more private every day. This topic is constantly debated by many, and this debate has led to a mix of public/private systems. By setting a sound chosen system for Canada, more opportunities for family doctors and available care can be created. The next slide is clean water and sanitation. Not only does Canada strive to create clean water and hygiene and sanitation for every individual in Canada, but they also strive to put a long-term plan in place to create a solution for sustainability for water preservation and survival of the planet. Another issue Canada wishes to address is long-term solutions for clean drinking water on First Nations reserves. Since 2015, First Nations, with support of the Canadian government, have lifted 127 long-term drinking water advisories and 208 short-term drinking water advisories. The Government of Canada is investing in provincial, territorial, and municipal to upgrade water and waste water treatment and distribution infrastructure. Over the past 3 years, $1.6 billion have been put towards this issue. Despite Canada being a first world country with great wealth, issues related to clean water and sanitation still arise and are currently being acted towards for long-term solutions. And our last WHO Sustainable Target Goal for Canada is climate action. Greenhouse gas emissions in Canada are increasing day to day. In March 2022, the Government of Canada introduced Canada's 2030 Emissions Reduction Plan, which provides a roadmap for the Canadian economy to achieve 40 to 45% emission reductions by 2000, below 2005 emission levels. The government has also introduced Canada's first national adaptation strategy by working with provincial, territorial, and municipal governments, as well as Indigenous and other key partners. These frameworks will unite to create cohesive plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by solutions such as going green, solar panels, and ideas following these examples. Greenhouse gas emissions are present everywhere in the world, and Canada makes up a large part of these numbers from production in oil and gas industries. By including these long-term plans and hopes for decreasing emissions will continue. And that's the end of my part.
Okay, I'm next, and I have the question here: the two generalized conclusion, meeting the overall target on track to meeting the targets and any effort to consider the targets. As in Canada, as you discuss it with the on poverty in the first SDG poverty, their aim is to eradicate the poverty by at least 50%. And those action was like they have the official poverty line, the Opportunity for All, the Poverty Reduction Act of 2019, the Canada Child Benefit, and Canada Worker Benefit, and CPP, and Old Age Security, just to make like secure for Canadian. And then for the second aim, for the zero hunger for Canada, their aim is to end or food security, improve nutrition and sustainable agriculture, and their plan or action is like food policy for Canada, local food infrastructure fund, emergency food security fund, and and then there and then the third one for good health and well-being. Canada's aim is to promote healthy lives and well-being for all ages, major health priorities. And then their action plans is Public Health Agency of Canada, and we all know that we have the best like health system, universal uh, health plan for Canada. And Canada also have a prenatal nutrition program for uh, for pregnant women, and also from the next slide, the clean water and Canada's aim is to ensure access to safe water sources and sanitation for all, including the hygiene. And then they have the action plan for infrastructure program, Canada Community Building Fund, investing project, and like they funded 1.6 billion toward drinking water and wastewater project. And then with the climate change, um, Canada's aim is to have a healthy environment and health economy. And then they have action plan for the 2016 Pan Canadian framework on clean growth and climate change, net zero emission by 2050, um, and then for Nigeria, for for the for the poverty, uh, they aim to end poverty in all its form everywhere. And then they have action plan like the social investment program, conditional cash transfer. As Lauren mentioned also, I just like summarizing everything. And then in the zero hunger, they aim is to end hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. And then they have the action plan of with the help of the United Nations, and World Food Program for the Nigerian to implement like this goal of zero hunger. And then for good health and well-being, they aim is to ensure healthy lives and promote the well-being of all at all ages. And they have the action plan with the help of United Nations for the maternal and child health to improve like the immunization coverage and increase like for immunization for like communicable diseases to reduce the fast growing communicable diseases. And to meet that, in at least they have the target for 2030. And then for water, clean water, Nigeria has the aim is to ensure the availability and sustainability water and sanitation, and they have the action plan, of course, with the help of the United Nations, is to have safety drinking water management and also need sanitation and hygiene services. And for the climate change, they aim is to have net zero gas emission by 2060 and to reduce the greenhouse gas at least by 20%. So, and then they have the action plan to have the renewable energy program. They are right now they are using like generators for their electricity, and and like they have this plan of adaptation, the rural resilience activity, water for agriculture activity, natural climate solution, protection for water protection for safe and sustainable water supply. So like next slides, please. For the conclusion for Canada, Canada is ranked 26 out of 166 among all the country in the world. The government Canada's level of commitment with this WHO Sustainable Development Goal was really high. It's just according to the review from 2018 and 2023. The SDG index score of Canada is 78.5. So the government Canada is aiming to meet the goal by 2030 and was making plan and project. Some of the SDG was on a process of making a development of for example, climate action. Canada is having like a trouble with this SDG, but they are working on it. So far, the Canada is achieving the no poverty. They are on track and maintaining the achievement, and zero hunger. Canada is uh, still like a little bit stagnant, but at least they are performing well with hunger, because we know that we're having like recession and everything. And with the health, Canada is doing great uh, with the health, and then the clean water. A little bit of challenges, but at least they are 50% working on it. And the climate change, a while ago, what I was saying, because of the CO2 emission of the fossil fuel. So there are major challenges in there. And then with Nigeria is ranked 146 out of 166. The SDG index score is 54.3%. And then the level of commitment for the SDG Sustainable Development Goal was moderate, according to the national review done like in year 2017 and 2020. So the total policy score was 65. So Nigeria needs a lot of improvement with the help of the United Nations and with the other organization, but Nigeria is slowly meeting the goal. Uh, Poverty and corruption, what I see is the main problem in the country.
Okay, so coming on to my side, we want to know, is Canada actually meeting their WHO targets? So, Canada's poverty rate has increased from 6.4% to 7.4% as of 2020 to 2021. But despite the drawbacks, Canada has decreased their poverty rate by 2.3 million people as of 2015. And with 4 million Canadians that are struggling with food insecurities, Food Security Canada is given a funding of 134.4 million to help battle food shortages for the span of 2019 to 2024. But due to Canada's food policy given by the Minister of Agriculture, the succession of the policies depends on the implementation and the effectiveness of the budget. And for Canada's water quality, Canada water quality by world standards has increased quality of water from 2020 to 2022 with 163 monitoring sites tested with 54% excellent, 32% clear, and 12% marginal. So that just leaves 2% of bad water here in Canada. And as of August 2023, 80% of Canadians, excluding the Quebec, said that they had a regular health provider, while 12% find it difficult, having a big improvement in the healthcare system since 2010 for the well-being of Canadian citizens. And for emission data shows Canada is on track of achieving goal of being under 20% reduction of carbon emission with a 2% decrease as of 2023 and 16% decrease from 2005 to 2015. But latest modeling forecast estimates targets will not reach until 2035, so missing the Canadian federal goal of reducing carbon emission of 40% by 2030. So that's it for Canada slide. Moving on to the next, is Nigeria meeting their WHO targets? So in Nigeria, 40% of the population is poor according to the multi-dimensional poor index in 2019, as 63% are living multi-dimensionally poor in 2022, whereas multi-dimensional poverty has increased in suburban areas recently in the last few years. But Nigeria has improved their water and sanitation quality. Now, 7 in 10 people with clean drinking water, but leaving 3 out of 10 with unsanitary toiletry conditions. 26.5 million Nigerians projected to be in a food insecurity shortage in 2024, with 18.6 million living in food insecurity of November 2023. The Nigerian healthcare is facing challenges due to low government allocation of federal budget and migrant workers moving away, needing 237,000 doctors with only 35,000 in Nigeria. And as we know, Nigeria is the most populated country in Africa. Nigeria has joined the Breath Life Network, though, in hopes of reducing air pollution by 22%. In 2030, with Nigeria being 4th most populated country in the world, in 2019, it is now the 35th most populated country in the world. And that's the conclusion for if they're hitting the target. So moving on to the next slide.
Okay, for my part, it says that is there one WHO the country is excelling in versus others? And for Canada, I put in 3 WHO targets that the country is excelling in. The first one I said was no poverty. It shows that Canada is working on the no poverty goal by basing their poverty line to basket of goods and services. That is Market Basket Measures, MBM. The MBM threshold represents the cost of specified qualities and quantities of goods, clothing, shelter, transportation, and other necessity for a reference family of 2 adults and 2 children that individual and family require to meet their basic needs and achieve a modest standard of living in community across the country. and they use Canada Child Benefits. They use a Canada Workers Benefit. There's Canada Pension Plan Enhancement. There is Old Age Security. There is Guaranteed Income Supplement. There is Unreserved Income Assistance Program for indigenous people and people living in Yokun. As Goods and Services Tax and Abonai Sales Tax. And there is National Housing Strategy, and there is also Canada Homeless Strategy and Rapid House Initiative. In the No Poverty goal, Canada has been making sure that they excel in this sustainability developmental goal. The goal for health and well-being in Canada, that is in the one I highlighted, I said Public Health Agency of Canada. They have different strategies that they are using. They use the Canadian adopt healthy behavior, and they try to put in different strategies like the early child health and development, healthy eating, youth vaping, population that is overweight or obese, harmful alcohol use. So Canadians have healthy and satisfying lives, and the life satisfaction, perception of health and social well-being, perception of mental health, and Canadian prevent causes of premature death. They go use the vaccination rates as a strategy to make sure that they are excelling in these sustainability developmental goals. The incidence of disease, mortality rates for selected causes of death, like tuberculosis, incidences in the north, opioid use and related harms, or cigarette smoking. Another WHO act or WHO target that the country is excelling in is on clean water and sanitation. And in Canada, lakes and rivers supply drinking water to millions of Canadians and sustain a rich variety of plants and animals. Groundwater resources also provide drinking water to Canadians, sustain base flow in streams and rivers during dry periods, and support ecological services. In the WHO targets, I highlighted Canada Water Act to work with provinces on water issues. Canada they have agreement with provinces to work collaboratively on water issues. They use the Canada Water Act to make sure that they work with provinces like Canada-Quebec Agreement on the St. Lawrence 2011 to 2026. We have in 2021 Canada-Ontario Agreement on Great Lakes water quality and ecosystem health, and Canada-Manitoba Memorandum of Understanding respecting Lakes Winnipeg and Lakes Winnipeg Basin in 2021 to 2026. We also have the Boundary Water Treaty, where Canada is also signatory to other international agreements with the US to manage boundary and transboundary water. It shows that the government of Canada is committed to working in partnership with First Nation to eliminate all remaining long-term drinking water advisories on reserves and make sure that long-term investment and resources are in place to prevent future ones. The ones I did not highlight is the zero hunger, and the last one I did not highlight too is climate action. But for zero hunger, I put that they are using the Canada Indicator Framework indicators, and this one has the prevalence of food insecurity and index of agri-environmental sustainability. To reduce hunger, they have strategies like food policy, for Canada, Canadian Food Advisory Council, Local Food Infrastructure Funds, Canadian Agricultural Youth Council, Opportunity for All, Canadian First Poverty Reduction Strategy, NNC, which is Nutrition North Canada, Northern Isolated Community Initiative Funds, and the others. And the last one on Pan-Canadian Framework on Clean Growth and Climate Change has to do with climate action. And this PCF was developed with provinces and territories in consultation with indigenous people. It also included actions to advance climate change adaptation and build resilience to climate impact. In 2021, the Government of Canada launched the program of applied research on climate action, and that's MPACA, a cross-departmental multi-year research initiative on climate change that combines behavioral science insights and methods with robust policy analysis to promote climate action by Canadians and recognizing the relationship between individuals' behaviors and system-level change. Next page, please. For the sustainability goal, sustainability developmental goal that Nigeria is excelling in, clean water and sanitation was highlighted, and it was highlighted through saying water, sanitation, and hygiene national outcome routine mapping, which is called WASHNOM. About 55 million Nigerians still do not have access to clean water supply services, and then 110 million Nigerians lack decent toilets, and over 47 million practice open defecation. Though this is happening, but progress to address this water and sanitation crisis has been accelerated by the declaration of a state of emergency by the federal government in November 2018 and the launch of National Action Plan for the revitalization of the sector. So the partnership have expanded water supply, sanitation, and hygiene. That's another one called PWASH, the Open Defecation Free Roadmap, and the Water Resource Bill all support this drive to ensure universal access for all by 2030. This goal is excelling more in the southern area, and they have really been ahead of it. But in the northern area, they are still lacking that water and sanitation, clean water and sanitation. But still, the federal government is making sure that this goal is one goal that they want to try to excel in, due to the trying to eradicate cholera disease and other communicable disease that has to do with water and sanitation. The other sustainability and developmental goals, strategies that has been put in place, like in No Poverty, is the National Social Investment Program, and this is a program that targets the poor and vulnerable members of the Nigerian population to address this. Safety net covers around 22.5 million households. This is a small number compared to the population in Nigeria, and that's why this goal is not excelling in a WHO target. The climate action, Nigeria put in place the greenhouse gases in Nigeria. It's not excelling in this WHO targets because most Nigerians are using generators, and generators produce carbon monoxide, which pollutes the air in the country. So though there is the climate house gases in Nigeria, it's still not really effective, or it is still not effective because of bad governance and stakeholders that is in the country. So there's still going to be exacerbation of deforestation, there is still going to be flood, and there is still going to be heat waves, and agricultural production in hotter and drier season. For zero hunger, the WHO target is not working because of the same bad governance. Even though there was an strategy put in place, the National Multi-Sector Plan of Action for Food and Nutrition, and this goes between 2021 and 2025. It's a 5-year nutrition action plan that will guide the implementation of the invention and programs to address hunger and malnutrition across all sectors. But social safety net programs, where they distribute transfers to most vulnerable low-income households, Nigerian government have launched and relaunched Food and Nutrition Security, that is FNS, and the transfer can be in form of cash or food, that is, can be palliative or with money. But unfortunately, again, as it was in the no poverty, only few people have access to these kinds of cash and food. And this cash or food that this individual is giving is not enough to take care of that individual, not to talk of that individual using that cash and food to feed their families. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Brenda. Here's our references. Okay, that should be everything. Thank you for listening.